Hi guys, my name is Taylor Williams, and for my Chicano film presentation, I decided to name my film To Each His Own, How Do We Live Together? So, first of all, I'm not the most creative human on the planet, but I also did know that I just wanted to keep the cover of this film just sort of plain and simple and open to interpretation. So, in the upper left-hand corner, you can see that we have a group of younger Chicano guys, and then in the bottom right-hand corner, we have there's younger white people. So the genre of this film is definitely a drama. There's a little bit of legal in there, but it's mostly drama. So the setting of the film is in the 1980s, the mid 80s to be exact, 1985. So at this time, President Ronald Reagan is in office. So I'm just going to give you guys a quick synopsis of the film. So in the 80s, the Latino population was actually growing larger and larger in LA. And then by 1989, it was the second largest urban population of ethnic Mexicans next to Mexico City. And then in 1985, Reagan reframed the issue of immigration as one of national security. So basically, he stated that the U.S. just had lost control of its borders to an invasion of illegal immigrants. And then in 1986, we had the implementation of the Immigrant Reform and Control Act, which led to an increased patrol along the U.S. and Mexican borders and sanctions on employers of undocumented workers. So at this time, Chicanos were kind of seen as sort of an unsure population. And as we've seen in some of the films that we've watched in the past, there's definitely still some racism and some prejudice going on that people have against Chicanos. But in this film, they're kind of unsure. And the two characters that I focus in on are sort of adapted from films that we've watched previously in class. And I think you guys will kind of see a pattern with that. So here is the storyline of the movie. So Jaime and Raul Gonzalez are twin boys who were born and raised in East LA. They were born to Marisol and Romero Gonzalez, who are from Mexico City. The story takes place in 1985. The boys are in their senior year of high school and are starting to drift toward different paths. Growing up, the boys were inseparable. They had all the same friends, played on the same sports teams, and enjoyed their weekly Sunday dinner with their parents. It was their tradition. As they entered high school, they started on different paths. Jaime, who started to go by Jimmy, found himself hanging with the rich, popular white crowd. He wore fashionable clothes and spent most of his time hanging with his friends at the mall or riding around in their expensive cars. Raul took more of the stereotypical quote unquote cholo route. He hung around the Mexican kids who skipped class, disrespected teachers, and started fights at school. Most of his time was spent in front of the gas station or the drive in movies across from the high school. Jimmy was always concerned about the future. He made sure to be on time to every single class and got straight A's in school, with his end goal being a college professor. Raul couldn't care less about school. He was convinced that the world would swallow him whole and he would be just another statistic. In his mind, there were plenty more where he came from. Although the boys chose different paths, different crowds to hang around, their mother made sure they remained close by keeping their tradition of Sunday dinner. In 1986, when the Immigrant Reform and Control Act went into play, some things changed for Jimmy and Raul. Jimmy's friends were all walking down the hallway together at school a few days after the announcement of the IRCA passing Raul's friends group of friends. One of Jimmy's friends, Jeremy, made an out loud comment. Wow, you guys are still here? Guess that border security isn't all it's cracked up to be. Raul's friends stopped in their tracks. Without so much as a look, Raul's friends began to get physical with Jimmy's friends. In the middle of the fight, whilst both trying to defend their friends, the boys realize that they are fighting each other. In this scene, Jimmy and Raul seem to communicate with just one look. The scene flashes to their mother, praying over them at Sunday dinner, saying, "Thank you, Lord, for blessing me with two souls who can live so differently but love each other the same. May they always have each other." In that moment, the boys stop fighting and try and break up their friends. Fast forward to the end of the movie, the scene shows Jimmy teaching in a lecture hall. The class clears and there's one student left, Raul. Jimmy says to Raul, "So what did you think? Can you handle it?" Raul, chuckling, says back to him, "Oh, you think you're so smart. Give me an A or I'm telling mom that you tried to fight me in high school." The movie closes out in the scene with the boys walking out of the room, laughing together as per usual. So while this movie is pretty simple, I think that it is important to produce because it sends a different message than kind of what we're used to in Chicano film. So I think it shows that our society kind of forces people to choose sides who they want to be, and it's kind of just hard to be really who you are because I feel like society is constantly pulling us in different directions, and you have to pick one path that you think is right, and if you don't pick that path, then you're kind of just screwed. And so that kind of determines whether or not you succeed in life. So I think I think that the message that it sends is just because we're different, it doesn't mean that we can't love and respect one another, and we can still share similar values and beliefs and have the same goals and can coexist in peace and do more than that. We can appreciate one another for who we are. And I think this film pushes forward the idea of equality, and even though it does kind of it may be a bit far-fetched in the sense that it sort of seems like a perfect world scenario, I think that this film would offer something that our society could really use, which would be more of an uplifting tone to it, because I think it highlights both Chicanos and um, Anglo Americans, because it doesn't force the I'm better than you on either side. I don't think I think while the film does introduce the I'm better than you mentality, um, when the two friend groups are pinned against one another, I think that it still shows that these two brothers, yes, they're family, but also they chose two totally different paths when they were sort of growing up, but they were still able to come together and still be true to themselves. And I think that that's really important for our society to learn. And I think it is just a message that we need in the world. So that's pretty much it. Thank you guys for watching my presentation, and I hope you enjoyed it.